Philip, you definitely should know the answer to this question. Tell me, is it possible to grow quickly in development without losing stability?
Listen, it is possible, but in Bali, just like anywhere else, what we've realized is that you need a mix of two things here. On one hand, you need experience in good marketing, and on the other, experience in quality construction. If you have these two things together, because we've already realized that construction alone doesn't work in Bali, and marketing alone doesn't work here either. That's why it's possible to grow. And the second point is you need to get involved in every process. We have a lot of developer friends, and right now, the ones who are doing well are those who get involved in every process. So, those who tried to just get by on contracts are having a hard time. Those who tried to just build are also, let's say, struggling to sell anything. That's why if you understand all the processes, or if your team does, then it's possible. But again, the level of development, the scale of development by Balinese standards is significant for any developer in any country. Right now, we're slowly expanding into Thailand. And honestly, even in Thailand, we're a very small market, even in Phuket, let alone Dubai or Turkey. So when we talk about rapid growth here, we're talking about developing 200 units a year. But we understand that those aren't big numbers.
And what's your current pace?
In 2025, we delivered 130 units. In 2026, we'll deliver 140 units, and in 2027, at the end of 2028 or the beginning of 2028, we'll deliver another 250 units. Honestly, those aren't huge numbers, but here's the trick. We're delivering 250 units, but they're small. Right now, we've delivered 130 units with a total area on average of 100 square meters each. Well, on average, about 80 square meters because the villas are 100 and the apartments are 40. In 2027, we're delivering 250 units, averaging just 50 square meters each, so total volume won't really increase. We don't see any potential for increasing the volume, honestly.
But the complexity still remains. Every single unit is its own story. And the smaller they are, that means high-rise construction, which comes with more regulations and more technical specifics.
But again, look, the team we have building for us, for them, putting up a 4-story Khrushchevka building. We just finished building Ixochingu, so for them, building a Khrushchevka is no big deal. It's really not much work at all. I mean, building a villa is no trouble whatsoever, since it's just a 2-story building, you know?
A villa is actually the easiest thing to build.
But what really interests me is that the more I get into all this, the more I realize that now in Thailand, we're going to build the same kind of IXO, but with 7 floors. And honestly, there's not that much of a difference. It's not like a 30 or 40-story building like people are used to. When you get to 20 or 30 stories, then it gets a bit more complicated.
But the infrastructure there is a bit different. I mean, in Thailand and Phuket, you just have basic roads that are wider, and that makes it possible.
The builders are actually the same people. So really, whether it's there or in Dubai or in Turkey, everything is built by the hands of the final worker. And the skill level of those final workers is about the same.
Seriously?
Well, I'll tell you even more. Some Indonesian construction companies actually laugh at us because I love to show any investor that if you want to see, even now, if you're listening to me, if you want to see how things are built in Indonesia, just type Jakarta into Google and take a look at Jakarta. In Jakarta, I think there are more than 80 or even over 100 buildings taller than 50 meters. I don't think there's anything like that anywhere in the CIS. So the CIS countries build much worse than Indonesia. That's why when we talk about the complexity of construction, no, it's not complicated. Here, it's more about meeting deadlines, right? Indonesians just need proper training. Deadlines have to be met and everything should be done that way. But just to get ahead of myself a bit, I'll also say that if you're buying property either in Bali or in Thailand, you should always tie your payments to the stages of construction. In our company, we're very much against so-called lump sum payments. Full cash. I mean, we love cash like any developer, but everyone feels more at ease if it's done in installments. That's why we're one of those companies that has offers with a 20% down payment in our arsenal. But even if a client comes in with just a 10% minimum down payment, we're open to talking as well. Our goal is to make sure the client feels at ease, and so do we. Because when someone pays the whole amount up front, that's when things can start to go wrong. Those 2 years, all the headaches about whether you're actually building or not. But if you really want to know, right now the market is just amazing for resale properties. If you want to, if you have cash, then go for a resale property. There are resale properties with proper documents, not just in our market. Right now, there are a lot of great resale options with good returns, 10% or more.
The sales department of loyo&bondar has prepared the 3 most advantageous offers of this month. The best prices, updated promotions, and exclusive special offers are gathered in one presentation. Find out where to invest this month for maximum benefit for yourself or your clients. Scan the QR code on the screen and follow the link in the description. And in just 5 minutes, the top 3 offers will be in your hands. Loyo&bondar, your best investment solutions.
I know a bunch of projects with returns of 10% or more on the resale market. Of course, you have to look for them and you still need to negotiate with the people who own them. But is it possible to find a resale property with a 10% return right now? Yes, it is. I think you know a lot of those.
Projects do. Yeah. Right now, we're actually looking at one with an investor. Well, it's not like that's a lot. I'd still say that 8 to 9% is normal for the market. Anything above 9% does exist, but it's rare. Tell me, at the very beginning, you mentioned that Volg. You need to focus on construction and marketing. How are things with management on your end?
We have our own management company. Speaking of which, about how they don't want to do anything, here's the problem we're facing. All the agencies are really pushing us to bring in hotel operators. Well, that's the trend that started. Personally,
I really don't like it.
no.
I hate it.
Listen, I don't like it, but first of all, some people do. Clients like it. They're willing to accept a lower ROI for hotel management. We try to avoid it as much as possible. Let me explain why. But of course, for some large projects, we're almost forced to bring in hotel operators. But there's a problem with that. A hotel operator, as you rightly said, isn't interested at all. They don't know. They have no idea about the investor's ROI. What matters to them is the quality of guest service. But as for the investor's ROI, actually, you could say this about any external management company. For example, our own management company, I'll let you in on a secret, but a lot of people work this way. In our management company's business model, there's no profit built in. We don't make money off the management company, not even that 10%. Usually, a management company earns about 20%. Out of that, 5 to 10% goes toward the management company's expenses. For offices, for advertising, and 10% is supposed to be profit. That's how management companies operate. That's normal. We're not really interested in the management company business. That's why, from the start, our main KPI, it's the investor's ROI. We're the kind of company where our management team's KPI is the investor's ROI. So basically, they're always thinking about how to improve it. Right now, we got some reports and we weren't happy with them. We're sitting here figuring out how to make it better. So, unfortunately, our top priority isn't guest service quality, although that's important too, of course. But we understand that Bali is Bali, and we get that you could, for example, do things differently there. Like you could clean 7 days a week and hire a huge staff, and then tell the investor there's no money left, or you could clean less often and deliver ROI to the client. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, but we're always trying to figure out how to make it all work. We have our own management company, our own laundry, our own sewing workshop, and our own warehouses for procurement. We've been certified, we've passed certification for a number of projects. We're kind of a big deal. Everyone said we're good. We're always trying to change something when it comes to occupancy. But overall on the island, occupancy is kind of all over the place right now. We're working on that right now. And there's another trend. The market is gradually shifting toward renting out by the room. Even OKSA, as far as I've seen, said they're switching to renting by the room. And it seems like with room rentals, those 14 to 15 units we used to do are hard to achieve now. It's almost impossible with room rentals, but you can still get 10 to 12 with them. It actually seems like it's almost easier to do right now than short-term rentals, because the expenses are lower. Yeah, the management company makes less, but if we're not looking to make a profit, what difference does it make what we do?
No, well, what people usually do is they have a certain number of units and they rent some out by the month and some by the day. So basically, they're working in 2 segments at once. But by the way, I don't know why you separate it like that. If the management company earns more, you earn more too. I get what you're saying about income, and I actually say the same thing on my own channel all the time. Like, what's the deal? The best management company is actually the developer's own management company. It's just that their motivation is completely different. Those 20% are just a drop in the bucket for them. But the real margin comes from satisfied investors who bring in new clients. But those numbers aren't even comparable. But still, the returns are pretty good. I keep an eye on it regularly. I think you do too. Keeping track of your management, your restaurants, and all that.
Listen, here's the thing. First of all, you always need to calculate returns over the course of a year. When everyone tries to calculate it month by month, you just can't get an accurate picture that way. Of course, you want to report every month, but you have to understand, and we've known this for a while now, that the peak season is July, August, and then again in December to January. That's when there's a spike. Well, yeah, this year a lot of people didn't come in December to January because of the rain. Honestly, we were there too. Last year in Ubud, it rained for 90 days straight. 90 days. Every single day it rained. So what's the story here? Let me put it another way. We were just in Thailand. We have partners there in Thailand, and right now, there's such a shortage that there was nothing left to rent. I'm sure that next year, the balance will tip toward Bali, and there'll be a huge surge. Why? Because every other person I know who went there, who ended up going to Phuket or Samui, says, man, prices there are insane. So next year, we're hitting Bali again.
It's like that every year over there. This year,
Everyone's
going in January.
everyone this year, and it's even more crowded there this year. For those of us who do visa runs, it's just going to be impossible. It's not going to be normal at all. These are seasonal trends that balance things out anyway. Bali added another 10% in 2025. We're all kind of cautious. We all want to make a lot of money, but we're all very, unlike Australians, pretty wary. Although Australians are already buying up land in the north. Once someone brings in tractors, the land prices there will shoot up 5 to 10 times and we'll all rush over there. I'm sure it will be, but not just like that. The Indonesian government and the Chinese want the northern airport. And the northern airport is projected to be twice as large. Anggaraya. This airport, too.
Throughput.
They want up to 60 million throughput.
The exact same thing applies here.
Most likely, if I see, they will make the north the center, and it'll be small.
Airport. Originally, the north was the center in Bali. It's interesting. By the way, we should analyze this and make an episode about whether this will be beneficial for us or not, to immediately bring in such a volume of tourists. Because what's also cool about Bali, right? You know, Bali manages to keep its authenticity. Take Thailand, for example. Everyone goes there, but honestly, to me, it's a bit tacky. Bali has its own culture, its own vibe, and its own kind of people. And because not everyone can get here, it's just that the tickets are too expensive and the airport's capacity isn't that high. The hype never really dies down. So what will be the main driver for Bali in the next 10 to 20 years, besides the usual Australians?
Southeast Asia, first of all, is the main driver for investment in tourism up until 2035. And you know what's interesting? Like you said, right? In Southeast Asia, interregional tourism is developing really fast. It's not domestic tourism. It's not just Indonesia, Bali, but also tourism from Indonesia, Japan to Indonesia, Korea to Indonesia, and Japan to Vietnam. Over the past year, they've launched more than 120 new flight routes between countries. So now, for example, there's a Ho Chi Minh City to Bali route. Vietnamese people are traveling to Bali. Balinese people also go on vacation. Well, Bali is mixed, I think, more so. Vietnamese people are traveling to Bali. So the future isn't really about Europeans. It also turns out that Southeast Asians really don't like to travel outside the region. They don't like Europe, they don't like Africa, they don't like America. They prefer to vacation within their own region. This trend will only grow. So what we're predicting is that if right now this internal interregional tourism is at 30 to 35%, by 2035 it will reach 70 to 80%. And there's still a lot of room for growth, especially in terms of money. So regarding the North Airport and the idea that the island isn't for everyone, we need to be very clear about this. And we can see it in Thailand and occupancy rates and everything. What does that mean? The people who used to go to Canggu, Sese, Pararanon, Kuta, those aren't the kind of tourists who bring in money. Yes, we really love Bali. Yes, I love Bali. I've been coming here on and off for 10 years now. But we've never really had much spending power. We like to rent a scooter, and usually we come alone or as a pair. You can't really come here with kids. There just aren't hotels like that here. Or there are 5-star hotels. And so when we were building our large complexes with 300 units each, why did we do it? Because actually, here's an interesting statistic. Even now, 90% of trips worldwide are still booked through tour operators. People are still doing this over the phone. All Europeans and people from the CIS use tour operators. You call Galina Sergeyevna and say, Galina Sergeyevna, I want to go somewhere for a week. And honestly, Dubai, Turkey, the Maldives, and Thailand are basically the main destinations in these stories. In Turkey, all the hotels are the same. Super luxury resorts. Me,
I didn't even choose. I just said, Olga, please pick one for me.
you get what I mean, right? But these Olgas, there's actually a big community. If you look at the CIS, there are 5 tour operators in different countries who work with several tens of thousands of travel agents. And you have to get listed there. But here's the thing, they don't list Bali. They don't list Bali, and the first reason they give is we need at least 200 rooms. Otherwise, we're not interested. Secondly, we don't list Canggu, we don't list Uluwatu, and of course, we don't list Nusa Dua or Ubud. Why? Buses don't go there. It's inconvenient for us. We do list Nusa Dua, but in Nusa Dua, it's only 5-star hotels. We're not interested in just 5-star hotels. We already bring tourists to 5-star hotels, but it's a very small number. That's why why is Nusa Dua starting to fill up now? And there are a ton of interesting projects in Nusa Dua. They're gonna develop because everyone needs 4-star hotels. And the 4-star hotels will be filled by a completely different kind of tourist.
It's cool how you dive into these kinds of details. By the way, I never really thought about that.
Basically, Nusa Dua is a whole different kind of tourism that Bali doesn't have yet. So basically, when we're talking about filling it up, I mean, everyone says we need to bring in tourists. It should be a husband and wife with 2 kids. They don't leave the hotel grounds. Well, if you go to Nusa Dua right now, that's exactly what's happening. So what do we actually have in Nusa Dua right now? 10 5-star hotels that are 20 years old, all that stuff, and they all need to be renovated. Kempinski, Hilton's, St. Regis, somewhere there's a Fushun, somewhere there's Bulgari. Whenever we bring investors to Cup again, there's just nowhere to stay, not even in the 5-star hotels.
And your project? Does it meet 4-star standards?
Well, up to 4 stars, more like 3 to 4 stars. 4 stars, if we're talking about what we actually want to offer people, it's a 4-star. Of course, we don't meet all the 4-star standards. Well, it's unlikely that we don't comply, but a 3-star is still decent. Look, we're talking about making money here. And let me tell you this, what actually makes money? It's mostly the 2nd row in Turkey, the 3rd row in Turkey, and the 2nd row in Thailand. The 1st row usually makes money too, but that's because you're pouring in a lot of cash. And if people, are investors, after all, we're still a pretty solid mass market option. Our investors buy apartments up to $100,000, villas up to $200,000. To make money on that, a 3 or 4 star is enough. So, for example, right now we have an apartment. How much does it cost? $8,000. It's a 50-year leasehold. So for this apartment to pay for itself, it needs to have a daily rate of $50 to $55.
And in your financial model, do you have it listed as 55 or 65 at least?
Yeah, we have something like that, I think, written in. So you have to check. Again, we try to set prices like that. You're saying that right now, clients aren't getting any ROI. But again, it depends on what price they bought at. And there are 2 questions here. Either the entry price needs to be below 100,000, below 80,000. In that case, maybe the price per square meter is higher, but the entry price is lower. Or the price per square meter should be low. A reasonable price per square meter for a villa, right now, the price you can actually make money at is $2,500, $2,800, well, up to $3,000. If you're buying a villa at $3,000 to $3,500 per square meter, honestly, I can't promise you any returns because I don't know how you'd make money at that price. Because $2,500 to $2,800 is the real price. So basically, that's the kind of price where you can still offer, again, 10 to 12% returns in this format. Because everyone who's getting good returns in Bali right now, well, I'll say it again, it's all about risk. Those who got into Bali 2 or 3 years ago are now easily making 13 to 14%. And that's still gradually increasing. Well,
Not everyone. Some are getting 10 or 11.
for those who are getting 10 to 12 back then, now because of inflation, it's really gone up a lot. Because back then, everyone was getting in at low prices. Low checks, low prices. I have one example. But again, look, the key thing here, and I always tell everyone this, as a company, let's put it this way, 100% of our sales go through agents. Why is that? Because it's hard to sell Bali through direct sales, unlike Thailand.
Wait, I just talked to your marketing director recently. You guys are already running direct traffic, aren't you?
We do run traffic, but we share it with them. With agencies, let me explain why. Because to sell Bali right now, you have to do a lot of work to explain what.
Bali is.
It's easier for me to work with partner agencies just because, well, that's simply why. Because
What about commissions? I can't outbid them. For example, other developers,
The scheme, the model is already built in.
I mean, the difference there is just huge. It's like night and day. Meanwhile, how do you pay motivation to your employees or to the agency?
Here, if we get into the weeds of the sales story, first of all, agencies usually have more qualified brokers working for them. Why is that? Because a developer will never pay as much as a broker does. If you're a good broker, you won't work for a developer. That's inevitable because no financial model will ever work out that way. That's the first thing. Secondly, we're so confident in our products. In other words, basically, with everyone who sells us, we occupy our own segment. We understand that absolutely everyone selling through an agency, we're there. We're in the top 3 in terms of offerings. Well, in any case, they'll offer us because we have good prices, we have these properties, so come and see, we have good terms. But if you just walk in off the street to it, if you're reasonable, you'll go check out some other options too. So actually, just so we're clear, the conversion rate right now for direct sales on the market is 2%, even 1.5 to 2%.
A very high conversion rate.
It's really high. Yeah. Well, maybe it's 1.5. Yeah. And the agency conversion rate, I'm taking this straight from a good Zoom call. No, not a trace from Zoom. And
Zoom?
Zoom is 2-3 zone. Well, out of 30 clients, if you're lucky, one will buy directly because they're still going to look around, but agents now have a conversion rate of, let's say, 20%. So out of 5, why is that? But I have my own real estate agency, so it's easier for me to close deals through the agency. Because for me, it's actually important that someone shows everything. We're not afraid of competition. Go ahead and look at everything and then make your choice. So generally, it's easier for me this way. We go the B2B route and we like it.
But many, by the way, also go the B route. B2B, and I think with the volumes in Bali, there's no point in developing your own sales department. But some guys, in fact, really go for it, and they do it successfully. But I constantly have conflicts because of this.
That's exactly why in 2025, we sold 320 units, because we probably have the best B2B department out there. I have much more. And my brokers are focused on something else. I
really like your B2B department. I mean, I haven't seen service like this. I mean, honestly, when I work with your people, I really feel like the client's being taken care of.
In our company, the main rule is that we have 2 types of clients. Our first level client is the agent. If the agent is satisfied, then the end client will be satisfied as well. Plus, let's put it this way, agents send better traffic, and the bigger agencies send even better traffic. I even tell my own people, you're really good brokers. We often let brokers go. Go ahead and work somewhere else. If there's a good broker in Bali, go try Thailand, try Dubai. Because, of course, Bali, it's really just a starting market. The money you make, roughly speaking, in Bali, if you're a good broker, because a lot of people are still afraid, I say, of course, go ahead and try yourself out. Of course, if you really think you're great, don't just try it there. Try other markets too, obviously.
I'd really like to talk about how you manage your company. Because honestly, as we started going over the positives just now, I feel this warm feeling inside. Because working together brings a certain satisfaction. But I always have some reservations when it comes to management, especially with LOI. And right now on the podcast, I like that you look at tools like buses. Just recently, my friend, who is also a major developer, had a bus with 50 people come to him for the first time, in Chengdu, by the way. Well, I guess it must have been a pretty small bus. Tell us, please, about management. How are you handling this now? How are you developing it? What results have you seen? How do you see it?
Listen, honestly, we have a lot going on. We've already invested about $1 million.
Let me interrupt you for a second, sorry. How many units do you currently manage?
130. Of course, there's some issues, but we talk about them, we're working on it, we have a big team working hard, and we have a dedicated manager, Evgeny. By the way, if you ever want to talk about the property management market, he's the guy from the GIS Center. So he's actually really good with the numbers, and basically, he fine-tunes everything there. Management is basically split into 2 parts. One handles the cleaning management,
And the other?
and marketing and occupancy. As for marketing, we're constantly changing teams, trying new things, and introducing direct sales. It's all a live-in, breathing system, but at the same time, we're totally open to new experiences. And honestly, we're completely open to management companies that show good results.
Who do you single out?
From what we can see right now, Bali Legends is showing good results. OXO, but with OXO. They have the same growth problem as everyone else, and honestly, OKS isn't really interested in handling a bunch of projects. I think they'll hit a point where they start to stall a bit, just like Balance did, or something like that. Maybe Balance. There's also that Indonesian company, plus some standalone ones, but the problem with standalone ones is,
With standalone developers. Can you single anyone out?
it's tough because I just don't see any among the developers. Well, Nikita Brigg has pretty good management. He's been around for a while. But the problem is the market is so young that there just aren't any developers who've completed a lot of projects. So we can't really look at a developer who has, it's interesting to analyze developers who have more than 100 units. For all the more or less reasonable ones, it's pretty much the same picture.
It's just that in my experience over the past 3 years, when people came in, nobody cared at all about management. Everyone just wants income. That's how it is, but that's the cornerstone. You can't just focus solely on profitability. You have to maintain quality. Yeah, so that's why, sorry to interrupt, but RWA really is the quintessence, the quality of property management and everything else. So that's what I'm saying. Honestly, I count everything. And only 2 or 3 developers deliver good results. Well, to be honest, I haven't calculated yours yet.
I think, again, you can't really count us yet because we've just launched, say, the big IKSO and Molasi complexes.
Listen, I like Daikeso.
Check back in 6 months after we've set up the processes. Basically, ignore the first 6 months entirely. We can see it just by the numbers, by the amount of feedback, the number of recommendations, and by how the team comes together those first 6 months. It's tough. Another thing is, when you go beyond 100 units, that's also quite a milestone. So what's the point here? Premium projects are a separate issue. But with premium, we actually work with clients whose checks are low. That's a different matter. It's not like leave-in or break where there are big villas. Those are different checks, different stories. So that's the point here. And they're not benchmarks for us. And neither is OKSA, because that's premium too. Business Plus is good, but we don't know if they can handle it. We need to find a management company that works with low checks. So how do you make money with low checks? That's the question. Because, for example, take XO Shein. Our numbers work out to $70 a day there.
Oh, that's really good.
I think we'll find some kind of model. Again, the market is so young right now that if there were a management company on the island that could operate, say, apartments in a way that we could immediately see results, well, we've tried several management companies, but so far there isn't one. We haven't seen it yet. Everyone's trying. Everyone's experimenting.
When it comes to management, actually, there are 2 main pillars here. The first is marketing, the second is staff. So right now you have 130 units. How many staff members do you have working? About 300 people.
300?
That is really impressive.
Yeah, that's right. That's how it is. That number includes everyone because we don't just manage, it's different. Laundry, our service is really comprehensive. Honestly, if you dig into it, there are a lot of details involved. Because when you deal with laundry, you know about the issues with the laundry shops in Bali. If you know that you can't hand over any laundry, right? So just imagine that for a single day. 1 room, 1 bedroom, in 1 day, uses up 8 kilograms of linens per day, accordingly.
But that's where you have daily cleaning. And here,
the short rentals. Besides,
VK Siam didn't mention it.
We could be landlords, Dad. That's the point. There are 130 units on average, let's say 1.5 bedrooms each and 8 kilograms per bedroom. And yeah, for 365 days. That's 600,000 kilograms of laundry per year. Accordingly, from experience, from what we've seen, why do we do laundry? Right now, we have 3 laundries, one in Ubud, one in Canggu, and one in Phuket. They're not really keeping up. Why is that? Because 20% of the linens get lost.
Not just lost, they disappear. And who's on your team? You have a big team, several people. Who handles the management?
Vadim Kolodia is one of our partners who handles management.
And
Odessa, they have only about 1,000 to 1,100 people, and out of those, 300 are in management.
No, I mean, it's one thing to have construction workers on site, but management is a whole different story. That requires a different level of training, a different level of education.
The construction sites are actually about the same, too. Well,
They're already dealing with people directly.
and when it comes to construction sites, you have tough moments. Indonesia isn't just about construction for us. It might seem like they're just laying bricks. No, we have engineers and architects.
Yeah, but that's just it. Only 2% of the people on site are engineers and architects.
Yeah, but listen, honestly, in the management company, most of the people, unfortunately, aren't the ones who interact with clients either. They're the security staff, the cleaning staff.
But don't the cleaners and security staff interact with people?
This is Bali. You can't teach perfect service here because we have people coming in from St. Regis, from Marriott, and even when they look at Kempinski, of course it's about the service. Well, it's just Indonesia. It's really hard. We're not a 5-star place. We're more like 3 or 4 stars, and that's enough for us. That's why our occupancy expectations are much lower. We're not aiming for that. Of course, the work we do is pretty challenging.
Well, listen, 300 is really impressive. I've talked to other developers, big ones like you, on my podcasts. They have fewer people.
I don't know anyone in Bali right now who has 130. That's 130 units, but if you count rooms, it's about 200 rooms. But if you think about it, 200 rooms, I don't know anyone right now who manages that kind of room inventory.
The point is, you organize 300 people. That's a great result. There's still room for optimization, and this is just the beginning. Another thing is marketing. How do you see it? What will drive occupancy?
The whole department, why, how many years have we been in marketing now? 20? I just realized that, first of all,
New staff, hardly marketing.
it's kind of marketing. Yeah, because this system, it's robots now. Even people who worked 5 to 7 years ago, or even 15 years ago. In hotel management and service, there are new systems now. We're always looking at new people, young people who are working in marketing. Of course, just like all young people, some of them lie, some don't. It's like we're magicians, like us. Marketing has always been about being magicians, doing things that nobody really understands. And now there's this whole new story. But this robotic marketing allows us to work with profitability. We set it up for each complex, for each apartment, for each villa, and it's a different story every time. But basically, what it means is that, for example, the price for a unit can change up to 5 times a day, if not 10 times. It's the kind of thing that I can't even fully explain to you how it works, but yeah, there are a lot of features in there. Plus, there's a lot of them. Right now, let's just say it wasn't exactly a mistake, but more like an oversight. We didn't really pay much attention to long-term rentals. We got a bit distracted. Again, up until October, we had 30 villas, and they were renting out just fine. In 3 months, we suddenly added another.
Exactly 100.
So now, of course, right now we're working with the landlord. That's a whole different story. It's more about bloggers, more about expats, and more. That's the kind of story it is. Something you have to figure out as you go because it's really a separate thing. Plus, over the past 6 months, we've also been dealing with some crazy regulations. By the way, a lot of people are suffering because of this too, because of government regulations. We're going through all the certifications, but for example, just recently, Airbnb sent out a notice to everyone with a deadline of March 31st.
I think that's a huge plus.
We're licensed, but most others will be removed now.
That's great.
Those who bought from investors, not from Bragg, not from us, but from some random seller, like a lot of people say, we're not going to buy from them, they're more expensive, we'll buy from some no-name.
Well,
There on Greenland or on Yellowland, everything seemed great, but now they'll realize, unfortunately, that this is the case too. We'll talk about this later as a negative for the market because this will also hit the market hard when another 30% of villas disappear from Airbnb and
it'll be a mess. Yeah.
people will be told that they can't rent these out and they'll say, so how are we supposed to make money from this? That's why, again, you really need to do all this through agents and developers. I don't see any issues. Our licensing goes through just fine. Everything's good on our end. But is there a lot of illegal stuff on the market? Of course, there's a lot.
Yeah.
When people come to me, they often say, these guys are given a higher ROI than we are right now. And as a rule, they don't pay taxes. And when they don't pay taxes, there's nothing we can do about it. We're a big company. We're under government supervision, probably one of the largest. In terms of the number of white licenses, we have 87 white licenses as a company, and our offices are there.
That is, just for the licenses alone, it's $150,000 a year.
But back to it.
We're very familiar with this. Actually, you kind of anticipated what I was going to say. And you mentioned something really important about you guys, yeah, which is financial stability. And you said that you can, or was that something you told me off the record? You said. It's just that Philip told me that they can basically keep going, keep building for a whole year even without any sales. Can you share how you managed to achieve that kind of stability and resilience?
Well, actually, yes. Right now, the market is set up in such a way that it's very diverse, it's changing, it's adjusting. And our financial planning for this year assumes minimal sales. Unlike other developers, we operate independently of sales. At the moment, we've sold about 70 to 75% of the units.
Of all those that are under construction?
But again, to be clear, those sales only apply to 2 new projects. So basically, Dream and, well, the rest, have we sold everything else? We keep some for ourselves and sell them in a more relaxed format, or sometimes they're resales, which is also fine. The main point here is, and I want to repeat, we are against full upfront payments because that's a big risk and a temptation for the developer when you have.
What's the point of doing that at all? You always had a 3% difference from the price.
No, for us, some people offer 5%, so I mean.
Hey, dude, you have it written as 3%. I really don't see the point in freezing money for just a 3% difference.
That's exactly why we did it, because it's not that interesting to us. I'll explain why. Because, well, what's the difference, really? We're not trying to make a bunch of money right now, but if we suddenly collect, say, 5 million, we already see others doing that. Developers who went down the path of, let's offer a higher percentage right away and collect more, you end up accumulating 5 or 6 million in cash, and inevitably, you start launching new projects. Well, the money inevitably goes somewhere.
Otherwise, when you don't have cash, that's when you launch new projects.
Well, no. Actually, I think both ways are possible, but launching a project with no money at all is tough. We always started new projects either when we had an investor for the new project or we. The second point, why we can operate without sales, is that we have our own construction company. Having our own construction is a guarantee that from
The very beginning, did you have it?
Yes, but for us, it was inevitable because my partners are directly in construction, and from the start, they wanted to build a construction business. Plus, we brought over a lot of guys from Ukraine who are builders, and accordingly, from Europe as well. But you, accordingly, from Russia and Ukraine, we brought over enough builders that in terms of construction expertise, we have one of the largest
James.
teams on the island. That's also a feature why our price per square meter is what it is, because there are details involved, right? But for us, for example, we have separate teams for each area of construction. There are finishers, separate electricians, separate pool specialists, and they move from project to project.
All over Indonesia.
Yeah, and it's really risky to hire contractors who build beautifully, but you don't have control over them. The problem there is that any cash gap, well, as a developer, I can tell you a little secret. Cash gaps for developers are, in fact, absolutely normal. It's a totally standard thing. Let me explain why. When you're making sales, you might be able to sell everything at once
When
and end up making zero. Or you can sell everything at the end and make a lot, but you have to ride the wave, like surfing, and maneuver through it. Because if you sell everything, but you're a bad developer, imagine you sold it all and made money. You were supposed to make 4 million, but it seems like you're doing great if you can handle it, if you can see the project through to the end. But for that, you really need to put in a lot of your own money. And if you invest a lot of your own money, whatever you earn, in the end, your return will be lower overall. So you have to keep maneuvering. That's why it's always a balancing act. There's no developer who doesn't have to walk that line. It's always right on the edge.
on the verge.
So for the biggest players, it's mostly a cash flow thing.
Or dust.
Talk about that. There's this term, cash gap, but basically, in any European country, this is solved through loans. You go and ask, should we take out more loans or not? We take out more loans.
When it's at 2 to 3%, it's not a problem. But when it's 8% or more, but
Actually, the good thing here, the plus, is that there are no loans here. And one of the advantages of Bali, just so you know, is that there are no loans here. Here, even the development companies aren't burdened with that. If we were all still in debt, there would be even more issues.
interestingly, you can get loans for freehold land.
Pretty much, yeah. You can't build anything on that freehold land. Yeah, but you can't build or sell on it. It's not really your land anymore. So that's how it goes here. That's why having your own construction lets you both slow down and speed up the process a lot. We don't have any issues if you have your own construction team, but if you don't and something happens, like all your workers leave, you'll have to pay 30% of the entire construction cost again just to get them back. So it's kind of like not really.
By 2026, it's just not realistic to be a successful developer in Bali without your own construction company. If in 2024 it was impossible to move forward without your own management company, now it's already
To give. Without solid construction experience, you just can't build. When you start a construction company, you have to hire people, supervise them. It's a huge deal. It also depends on how many units you have. That's a factor too. Why do people blame themselves for this too? So if you're building a lot without scale, like if you just want to build 40 villas, you're not going to set up your own construction company.
I recently visited a developer friend of mine. I hadn't seen him in a while. I had some suspicions about his financial security. And as I'm looking at his construction sites, I'm blown away. The materials he uses, the way he builds the walls, I've honestly never seen anything like it. It kind of blew my mind. So I asked him, Jenya, listen, why are you doing this then? Like, you haven't even finished your first project yet, so why are you starting another one? A second and a third, if that's an immediate trigger for Domagatsky. He says, yeah, listen, I've built up such a big team, a whole construction crew, all this stuff. I just need to keep my people busy with more work. And honestly, I realized I was wrong. So basically, for everyone who still, has too big a gap between what they've completed and what they're building, I would immediately label them as risky. But actually, that's not always the case.
I think, unfortunately, we'll have to keep working in this young market format for another 5 years, because in about 5 to 7 years, your questions will go away, more reliable developers will appear, and the risky train will have left the station. You often have to put a label on someone. In any case, in 7 years, those who have 10 to 15 years of experience will be considered reliable. Why is that? Let's say, for example, Break will become super reliable once they finish building, especially if they start building hotels right away. As soon as Nikita finishes building his first hotel format, that's it. He'll be considered super reliable. Right now, there are no questions about Nikita or Livin or a few others. But most people still don't have those kinds of properties or don't have
That kind of skit.
experience. Yeah, that's why it is the way it is. As for construction, well, of course, building at scale is cheaper. For us, let me tell you, we could show a lot of numbers. We could even show the figures, but we don't make them public. Not because of anything in particular, it's just kind of like that. Well, of course, we sold those units for $1,700 per square meter.
A lot.
We made a profit there. We really did. But
Excuse me, how much did you pay for the land there?
no, I won't trade with you.
$1,000, right?
Even less, something like $1,000 per 100 square meters, maybe even less. Well, not there, not at that place. It was just really cheap. Yeah, all of that was possible because
You have those dense townhouses there, right?
there's construction going on there. Because at that quality level, they even save money on warehouses. I don't think many people realize this, but we have 4 huge warehouses, and everything for the warehouses is purchased 6 months in advance. Most developers, when you're small, we're currently consulting for small developers, the ones building 12 villas, 15 villas. Those are actually much riskier because when I look at them, study them, their financial models, honestly, it's like a 50-50 chance they'll finish the project. Or they just won't make it.
Sushi, that's something we really need to talk about. These 12 or 15 villa projects are definitely people without experience, not just in business, but even in construction. Because guys with experience, they get it. They know that building 15 is just as much of a hassle as building 70, so what's the point? It's like, develop it.
Of course, that's what they wanted, but they're only moving forward with sales, so focus on that they just have a project. I have some guys now trying to sell 12 villas, well, 9 villas, which is great. But just 3 months ago, they were like, that's it. We're probably shutting down. I mean, we have no money, right?
Wait, hold on. We've gotten a bit off topic. The main thing, this is our final topic, about sustainability. So how'd you manage to achieve this? Your company is still pretty young. What, you've been building for about 3 years now, right?
Well, one way or another, at the very least since 2019, but almost at the bare minimum.
Yeah, so that project everyone knows about now, I first heard about it in 2023. That's when investors came to us. And one of my employees says, Shasha, we need to give people a discount, kind of give them some money back because they want to buy Loya. I said, what is this Loya you're talking about?
It's all very simple. We don't have full cash up front. On average, the first payments are about 30%. All our payments are tied to construction stages. At this stage, we've sold 520 units. In 3 years, we've sold over 500 units. So, if we look at 2025, the average price per square meter of residential space for us was $3,200 per square meter. That's 520 units. If you can show me anyone else on the island with 520 units, we're probably second only to the park in terms of volume. So 520 units will allow us to... Right now, we've sold 75, and we can easily sell that much in a year. And the rest we need to sell over 3 years, because our new Sadua project doesn't wrap up until the end of 28. So in terms of sustainability, what do we believe in? The first pillar is that we have our own construction company, and we know how to reduce costs and how to work with. Second, we actually have the best sales department on the island. Right now, we're squeezing out everything we possibly can, and honestly, we're doing way better than any other market. And at this stage, in the projects where we still have units left, we're confident in them. For example, we have Ubud units for $60,000. I mean, I'm confident about this. And there's Ville right next to Zes, right in the center. It's an awesome project. It's small. There are
40?
villas and 30 apartments. There are fewer left there too. Well, we just launched the apartments, and there are only about 10 to 15 villas left. And Pandava Dream is a freehold project. We're so confident about it that, look, right now we're selling 40-year leases there. As a bonus, if you buy 2 units, we give you 50 years. But we always have the option to offer 80 years. I mean, basically, we're not offering 80 years right now. So if we ever need to, we can offer 80 years and start.
Selling 80-year leases. Honestly, it's pretty risky to start selling 80-year leases right away because you'll have to renew them yourself. That's not always so easy.
Of course, that's written into the contract.
All right, well, I guess we're just about done here. The only thing is, I still have some questions. I still have a few small concerns about the stability, to be honest. Is there any outside financing planned?
We do have outside investments. We bring them in from time to time, and we have a couple of investment funds. But right now, it looks like this year we're finishing 3 more complexes, and after that, things should get a lot easier. We'll only have 2 construction projects left, and this year we want to sell out, meaning we want to sell about 90% of the units, and then gradually keep building everything. We don't have any funding problems. All the funding is fully covered by the investors we have, so
The other real.
problem that could come up is if the investors stop paying.
That's also a serious problem.
Could happen. True half.
God forbid, but hopefully everything works out. I keep a close eye on that company. It's important to me that obligations are met, meaning the units are delivered as promised. We had a good talk today.
Actually, we also have people interested in stability. We have ready units available and at really great prices. If you want stability, buy a ready unit. People also want to make money after all. There are ready units available in Loaste. We have about 15 units for sale there. The average price is $250,000. For $250,000, you get a 2-bedroom villa that will later generate pretty good income. Yeah, not right now, once Arcade is finished. But I think you can make really good money there in a year. Why? Because once it's finished, there will be a top-notch gym there. You can really make moves on that property. Once it's ready, you can easily get 8 to 9% returns. We have projects there that are in the pre-final stage. For example, Pandal Hills, you can still snag a villa there. We have options both for buying into stability and if you want something more. But what's interesting is that we tie payments to the stages of construction and we offer the longest possible installment plans. Honestly, our prices are really attractive for anyone who wants to give it a try. Just to try getting into this.
Try to pay. Or it was just really interesting to get to know your company, your team. From this side, we've covered all the most important questions, so to speak. Friends, you've heard our main points. Please write in the comments whether you agree or disagree, and if this is really how it works. Yes, and with that, Philip and I are saying goodbye. Thank you so much. What about you?
Thank you.
So let's stay in touch.